Laurie Huston's News for the Heart is dedicated to helping you give a voice to your own soul. Our hearts have the power to free us from pain and the struggles that keep us from awakening to our true essence. Join Laurie now as we delve into our heart and soul to find the path that will open us to the possibilities and lead us to the life we love to live.
And good afternoon. This is News for the Heart. Well, we've just been back for the month of October, and this is a great start to it. We have a special guest today, which is David Watson, who is a channeler for the Willows, but also does his own conscious channeling and talking about all the things that are happening. So we're just going to play around. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on, and maybe really we're going to focus on how to help everyone to navigate through all the things that have been happening. And as I'll talk about a lot, the separation or the division that we've been experiencing definitely is creating a lot of stress and extra tension, and just everything that's going on is just, it's too much for a lot of people. And it just seems to be exuberated with all the things. It's just not going away. I feel like since COVID, it just continues to get stronger and more challenging and more difficult. And I know we've talked about, trying to find that place of peace while we're going through this. And I know David's going to offer some great
yeah, I hope so.
options and choices that we can look at. So, David, welcome to the show. It's been a little while since you've been on, but I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, a little while.
A little while.
A couple of hundred years. Yeah.
Not quite that long. All right.
Well, no, but it has been a while. But I'm delighted to talk to you again, Laurie, and it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And you can see I'm in my new space, which is pretty amazing.
I do. It looks really nice. The windows, isn't that unique? And coming in with the light, isn't that unique? That's good. Yeah. Beautiful. Unique.
It's all sweet. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the division that's been happening. Let's talk about how you see, our way out of that and finding that.
Well, first of all, we have to look and see where we're at in our evolution. We have this tendency, we human beings, of repeating things from generation to generation, and hell, from century to century, and even from millennium to millennium. Because we've always tried to work with division. It goes back to ancient Rome. United we stand, divided we fall. And if our back should ever be against the wall, as that old song went. But it's true. And it is true. And division is based on all of the elements that are active and are being used against us psychologically right now, which is fear, which is hatred of ourselves and other people, and fear of ourselves and other people. Also, a misunderstanding about the fact that there's an enemy out there, And when we start thinking in those terms, and it's very easy to see how easily we're manipulated by these things. Every time we turn around, I go on YouTube, right? And you just kind of like just flipping through, and a lot of the headlines, and they go, "This is really going to terrify you. This is going to make you feel terrible. This is, oh my God, what's going to be happening?" So we have a lot of doomsayers and naysayers out there, and they have a tendency to be in the position of being influencers, and they influence us through our most natural ways of communicating these days. When I was a kid, it was TV, radio, and the newspapers. People go, "What's a newspaper?" "Oh, you wrap up fish and chips." "What are fish and chips?" "Okay, forget about it." But the fact is that we're the way that we receive and exchange information today makes us very subject to instant gratification, but also instant control. I'm also a hypnotist, as you know, huh?
Right.
And basically, when COVID came in, what we got hit with was a gigantic pattern interrupt. And in hypnosis, if you want to get somebody's attention and stop them from thinking about anything else except the thing you want to work on, is you interrupt the pattern of their thoughts. And nothing interrupts the pattern of somebody's thought with that being told there's a fatal disease around. You can't spend time with other people. And in fact, you have to close everything down for what? Through 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, or forever. So it changed everything. So consequently, we had to learn brand new ways of dealing with things. Well, most people aren't provided with that kind of critical thinking process that allows us to process information and to deal with it effectively. So what we do is when this happens to us, we turn to the people usually who create the problem. In this case, it was the WHO and world governments and a number of private businesses that were, in the drug business, shall we say. And they use this to promote a brand new way of, addicting us to fear. And when we're given fear, which of course is an acronym for false information appearing real, it's got to be real to us when we understand that when we're frightened, we freeze, and then we wait for information to come to determine what to do next. So we waited for what? Our government and the health industry to tell us what to do next, and they were the ones that blew the whistle in the first place. So suddenly we become dependent upon the sources of the information for the new world, and then we have to think different. When was the last time you went to a party with a lot of people at it? Not me. I mean, I have friends of mine who are professional musicians. They had such a hard time because they play in bars and taverns and restaurants on the weekends, and that's how they made their living. But suddenly they all went out of business. So nobody thought about the secondary fallout that came along with it as well. So this all changed so many people's lives in so many different ways. Businesses went out of business, particularly ones that allowed us to interact with each other. Oh, yes, and of course, the important thing about pattern interrupt is to stop people from communicating with each other and only listening to what the information that you need to have to survive is all about. And that's what happened. That was 5 years ago. But of course, we were programmed into doing that thing over the years, because there was a book turned out many years ago called The Hidden Persuaders, if you've ever heard of it. But it was by Vance Packard, and it was very interesting. It was how subliminal advertising affected people's way of thinking. And that was back in the 60s. Well, that was some time ago. And it was pretty advanced then, and how do you think it is now? Mass hypnosis is a very easy thing to work with people because hypnosis isn't something you do to somebody. It's something you do with somebody, and we're all somebodies. We all want to know how to live our lives better and more peacefully and with grace and aplomb, But at the same time, we also have to, feed our families, pay the rent or the mortgage or the car or the this or the that. There's always something to pay, and that's what life is all about, as it always has been. So we took all of those elements and we shook them all up in a jar and dumped them out on the table, and that's where we are right now, And we're confused. We have information all over the place, and they're not about to want to change that. That's why, in the United States, Trump is not only influencing the United States; he influences the world. Okay, and for me, I never let somebody like him because, unfortunately, he's as Bugs Bunny used to say, he's a maroon. What a maroon, and he is, unfortunately. He's short-sighted, selfish, greedy, and extremely stupid when it comes to people powers, except for the fact that he understands how to bully and intimidate people and use money to influence and coerce others. And of course, it's like going to the casino. What's the casino consist of? Well, let's see. You take all your money, you go to this place, you give it to some people, you watch a show, and you go home. That's it. Because all the gambling is one-sided, and it's the same with what's going on right now. What's happening in the world is one-sided, and the objective is to keep us subservient and in a different state of consciousness that allows us to be controlled by a small number of people. We're which is called fascism, you know? And of course, we all know what fascism is, you know? I mean, I know I sure do. You know, I come from a family that lived in Great Britain during the Second World War, and were bombed 2-3 times a week by people just dropping extra bombs on the way back from the big towns they bombed, and they dropped the small ones on large before they went back. And there was my family living there during all this. My grandmother was adopting and helping those little Jewish kids that were being sent out of Poland and Germany, and helping them, you know, go to their families in the United States and around the world. This was a big deal. So I was very impressed upon me about what was going on there. And it all has to do with control and money, you know, and it's exactly where we're at now. You know, people say, well, fascism, well, what is that? You know, well, it's actually called capitalism as well. You know, it's just business, you know, as they used to say, and still it's true, you know, money talks and BS walks, you know. So that's the way it is, right? So the world we live in right now is a world of division until we begin to step back and take a look at it and say, you know, it's kind of been like that forever, you know? And that's how Rome did what they did. They set up two opposing factors. It's the us and them, you know? And whenever there's an us and a them, there isn't just us. And the big secret is, as you know and I know, there's just us. It's just us. As that old Walt Kelly cartoon Pogo was all about. It's a little a little opossum living in the Okefenokee swamps with his friend the alligator and the owl and the tortoise and the other inhabitants of the swamp, right? Word got around to them one day that there were some people moving into the swamp on the other end. They send one of the little opossums out to spy on them. And he goes over to see the other people, and there was an owl, and a possum, a turtle, an alligator or two, you know. And he's going, oh my God. And he runs back to the other guys in his side of the thing. He says, I've seen the enemy, and the enemy is us, you know. It's so true. And once we realize that we're our own worst enemy, you know, we're the only problem we'll ever have, and we're the only solution. That's a very basic understanding. When we live in a world of duality, up, down, yes, no, etc., it's easy to come up with things to divide us. That's why when I look at the country that we're in right now, I mean, we have two parties, right? And one party, all they want to do is divide everything and criticize everything. And the other party's kind of quietly trying to fix something that, you know, they didn't start. But you know, we're part of it, whether we like it, to be a part of it economically or not, you know? So consequently, we have that division here in this country politically. And I'm not a big supporter of politics myself. Politics automatically means two opposing views rather than views that are opposite to cooperate, to talk about things and to solve things. But, you know, in the world that we live in, it's become too black and white. Huh? There are no grays. And life is all about shades of gray because, hell, we all live in the shadows, so to speak, of somebody in some way, whether it's society or a family member or a member or friends or whatever. So we all have, or at work, but we all have these things that kind of control us. And consequently, we start to feel like victims. And the society we live in right now, in my opinion, is what I would call a victim society, a victim-based society. And in victim-based societies, there's always somebody who makes one a victim. And when you talk about things, I mean, when I went to school, just to go back, you know, because I'm in my 70s now, when I went to school in the 50s, there were bullies at school. And if they pushed you around, you did one of two things. You gave them your lunch money, or you pushed back, and they might have beat you up, but they left you alone after they did it because you hurt them somewhere along the line, and they didn't want to let anybody know that when you need them in the groin, it really hurt, you know. So they kind of leave you alone after that. Today, if you get bullied by somebody, you go home and cry. Your parents go and find out who the parents are. Then they go and call the police. Then they go and bring in the social workers. And the next thing you know, they have a social working situation, which, let's face it, we were kids, right? You ever raise puppies? I am right now, as you saw pictures I showed you a little earlier. And they're always fighting with each other. But when they stop, they make up, they get along, and they figure out how to get and do things better together. You know? And that's what we learned as kids, how to get along with each other. And someone's going to push you in life always, because that's the nature of life. The nature of life is for us to have these experiences, to have the challenges, and then to learn inside from what's happened to us. So we grow, and that's where wisdom comes from, and well, critical thinking. By looking at things and understanding that what's happening isn't what really appears to be happening, what other people tell us. I mean, if I believed what other people told me all the time, I'd be in a lot of trouble, you know. Oh my, especially if I'm buying a car, you know. So you know, but the fact is that in truth, what we're really dealing with right now is a world in which we bought into a story. And we like to be victims. Because, you know, when you're a victim, you never have to take responsibility. Because it's always somebody else's fault. Oh, my God. Well, why are you? Boo-hoo, poor me. So-and-so's picking on me. So-and-so's bullying me. So-and-so's doing this. Oh, I see. And as a result, instead of standing up and talking to them or trying to work it out or finding some proactive way of working with it, we don't. We go inside of ourselves and we become resentful, angry, and fearful, you know, and that's how most of us become who we are. And this part of us, it's not all of us. I mean, it's not the whole part of our personality, but it's become a very entrenched part of most people's personalities, is this victim part. I mean, how many times have you talked to somebody about their situation, and they just turn around and they point their finger at somebody else? It's society. It's my mom. It's what happened to me when I was a child. Yeah, it all is. But it's up to you along the line and along the way to take the time and energy and learn to use, you know, the capacity for introspection and thought to solve these problems. You know, of course, the older we get, the more we realize this. So when we're younger, we're too busy, you know, we're too busy making a living to try and figure any of that stuff out. But at the same time, the world we live in today really makes us work a lot harder mentally and emotionally than we did before, because we've come into the world of me. You know, we sing, many of us sing song in the key, or sing our lives in the key of me. Me, 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 you know, me, 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 me. But that's what we do, you know, and we have to, because the only way we can look at life is through our own eyes, from our own perspective, from where we sit and see the universe unfold around us. And there's no other place. So what we come to believe at some point is that all the stuff we see going on around us is beyond our control and makes us feel helpless and hopeless. You know, which is terrible. But that's if you happen to believe in control as a base factor in victimhood, in duality, in the divisive world that we live in. You know, and to me, what comes out of it is the fact that we have to look and begin to say, I want to take control of things. I want to be in control of my life. I want to be in control of this, in control of that. And because many of us don't have the capacity to do that, okay, because we're victims, that we try to control other people instead of ourselves. And that's when we run into these dynamics with others. And, you know, oh, he's a control freak. Why is that? Well, because he has no control, or she has no control over herself or himself. None, zero. So consequently, the only way they feel like they're controlling anything is when they're managing the lives of everyone else around them and ignoring themselves, so to speak, in that way. Sound familiar? You know? So once we start looking at it from that perspective, we can turn around and look at the big picture of victimhood, the big picture of being bullied and being pushed around by the likes of Donald Trump and, you know, the usual group of idiots that hang around with, of sycophants that hold around with power mongers like him, and watch the same thing over and over and over again. You know, no matter what they do, no matter what he does, you know, there's got to be something else to feel victimized by. Look who he's victimizing now. Look who he's victimizing then. There you go. That's what oligarchs do, you know. That's what dictators do, you know. He said he was going to be a dictator just for one day when he got elected. What he didn't tell you is he got the Speaker of the House to only make the House one day. Do you know that that's what they did? They made it one day so they can, when they vote on something, they can't take a break and come back the next day because there is no next day. They just pulled a little political flippy there. So Trump is the ultimate dictator of the United States from day one. And, so we kind of look at that and go, oh, but he's victimized everybody. No, he's hoodwinked everybody. He's a crook. He's a con man. You know, he's a fly-by-night con artist. And he's so obvious. It's just so hard to see it's so hard not to see what he's doing. It's more to the point. But it all comes back to us because we ultimately are being victimized by some guy who's really and truly not in charge of his own mind, never mind in charge of anything else. And he's been given the power by a country that was founded on the base of democracy as a republic. As you got the Democrats and the Republicans, right? So that's how I discovered the work down there. But they've influenced us in this country. They've influenced our political scene here. I couldn't believe it when I saw Monsieur Polivier wearing one of those "Make Canada Great Again" hats. Yeah, so he's kind of like Maple MAGA, you know, up here, sort of like that. We got that going on up here, and not being a political being, but calling a spade is a spade. You know, it's not a shovel, it's a spade. Okay, and the fact of the matter, or maybe it is a shovel, I don't know, but the fact is that when we begin to view things like that, we can take a step back and realize it's us watching the world. We are not the world. We're influenced by what's going on around us in order to survive, in order to swim, you know, either upstream or downstream, you know. Those of us who try to swim upstream really don't do so well with themselves because they're always pushing against the current. That's what we're taught to do, you know. But quite frankly, I found the best thing to do is build a little raft, jump on it, and follow the stream along. And when you go with the flow, what happens in that moment is you let go of trying to control everything and you take charge of the moment. And that's the big difference between being in control and taking charge. Because when you're in control, you've got a number of rules and regulations that you use to manage and operate your system of life, right? And if you start getting out of control, some of those things are going wrong a little bit, you know, and are causing a lot of anxiety because you're not in control. So consequently, we spend more and more time when we're having control issues trying to get back into control than actually solve the problem. What I do, just as a little hint, and this is to anybody who's interested, is I look at things that are happening and I'll say, holy mackerel, I'm feeling really angry or frightened or hopeless or whatever in the moment. I'm not feeling the way I want to, and mostly it's a negative emotion. I'll say, is there a control issue at the root of this? And it's not hard to find them. There's always something out there, you know, oh, that's controlling me, this is controlling. And once you find the issue that's controlling you, you turn around and you say, oh, I forgot. I'm in charge. And being in charge means that there are no rules and regulations. Being in charge means being flexible, going with the flow, and seeing what happens as it happens. And when something is necessary to change, you can change any little rules and regulations you had along the way just to make yourself happier. You know? And the more that we realize that, the easier it is to let go of all of this. And letting go is what's necessary for us to get rid of the anxiety, the angst that we feel from just existing, for Christ's sakes. You know, I mean, holy mackerel. What's going on out there and being dumped on us every single day is astonishing. And those of us who have the capacity to pull away from it, good luck. You know, because everything you do is jam full of it. Whether you're reading a magazine, whether you're online, whether you're watching television, listening to the radio, Anything and everything that's around us has the same degree of information, which of course is largely just propaganda and nonsense that people make up in order to continue the state of fear, the state of disconnectedness, and which makes it so much easier to control. Because if you feel out of control, you're looking for ways to get back into control, right? If you're following that particular premise. But if you're out of control, you got to find the root cause and then realize, oh, I forgot, I'm in charge, and then we take charge of that moment, which means, hey, I can do whatever the hell I want now. And for those of us who have children or pets or both, that we realize we can't control them. Good luck on that one, But you're in charge of them. You got to feed them, make sure they're happy, and by talking to them and negotiating with them, they actually work with you. How about that? Because they are then taught how to be in the flow. But most of us want to fight everything. We operate under the premise of fear, and as I say, victimhood. So that's kind of my perspective of the world that we're living in right now. And the more that we understand that, it's not a matter of going, oh my God, what a society we live in. We go, that's what's been bugging me. That's what it is. I got to take charge. I got to start thinking about the way I think. I don't want to start thinking the way other people think, because it hasn't been working so well for us, has it now? I mean, come on, You think about what's going on in the United States. If any other president before this twit got in, okay, did any of those things, he would have been impeached by everybody. But it doesn't happen that way because he's a con artist and a crook. And what he did was it took him since 2016, so over 12 years to get to this point. And in all the time that he did that, very quietly behind the scenes, he built this corrupt, destructive, fearful thought process called MAGA. I call them maggots, because MAGA and zealots put together spells maggots, right? And I think really that's been his base for working forward. And it's been the very base that we have here. The people who talk about, woke. I got my own particular thoughts about wokeism. Okay? I mean, if wokeism is giving a damn and loving people, then I guess I'm woke, eh? I guess you are too, and just about everybody else is. And as far as Antifa, which is an acronym for anti-fascist. If you're not anti-fascist in the society that we live in, there's something wrong with you. And if you're against anti-fascism, that must make you a fascist. So automatically you're suspect of trying to control the people around you, tell them lies, and put misinformation inside of their heads so you can control them. That's what fascism is designed to do. And when we do our historical study about it and insights and research, we go back into the 30s in Germany, and they were not only fascists in Germany, but they were also Nazis. Nazis were people who, and we would call them Nazis as if there was a T in it, but there isn't. Nazi was a belief that, and still is a belief, of ultimate control, and of a singular person controlling everything. Fascism sort of works that way, but it's not quite as hardcore. So what we had in something with Nazism is a degree of insanity. And unfortunately, that's the insanity that we're seeing is coming across in the United States. They formed a special private military, in the States now to arrest people because they're a different color, or they, and then they ask you for your papers. It sounds like Gestapo to me, doesn't it? Eh? Well, that's exactly what it is. It's the Gestapo, and they're normalizing having the military in cities. They're normalizing.
They're democratic.
Yeah, well, that's not democratic. We can see that, but unfortunately, when you're in the middle of it, you're like that frog sitting in a pail of water that's slowly being heated. People who are living there don't notice that. I've spoken to relatives in the States when it all started, and I sort of says, "Well, how are you doing?" "Oh, well, it's not going to last." I'm kind of go, "Okay, You keep that attitude up and look the other direction. It's the same thing that happened in Germany in the 30s. You know, when they took a democratic country and in 1933 set fire to the parliaments, and then started taking all of the opposition members and arresting them and sending them off to internment camps. You know, just because they were the opposition party. And you know, we kind of look at that and say that sounds pretty much what they're talking about right now in the States. Arrest the Democrats. We'll put them all. They're all, you know, kind of like, holy Toledo, man. Like, what are you guys, like 5 years old? But the fact of the matter is, that's what we're dealing with right now. How do we stop it? We stop it in our own heads, number one. We stop being intimidated by it. We start taking charge of our own minds and our own perspectives and view of the world. We question everything that we see when it comes to criticism and division. Because, you know, anything that's supposed to be progressive in our world should be more focused on bringing things together to create one, not allowing them to come in and sort of like tear us apart inside and tear us all up. We don't want to be doing that. But that's, you know, these are the things that are important to keep in mind. And for our own selves to love and honor ourselves, to love and appreciate ourselves. How can they do that? There's lots of ways we can do it. I mean, you've had so many brilliant people on your show over the years who've had so many fantastic perspectives to share. And no two people are going to be attracted to just one thing. You know, people want to try many different things, which is, of course, what we have. It's called diversity and choice. And the moment we start to exercise diversity and choice, we take charge of our lives. You know, so that's kind of what we can really start doing and saying, you know, what do I know that's true? You know, and instead of asking why to things all the time, never ask why again. Stop asking why, because you ever ask a kid why, and you watch their eyes roll up to one side, and they sort of, and then they start telling you the story. You know, why? You know, but if you ask them who, what, when, where, and how, you're going to get information right away, and that's how I collect information from people. You know. And I think that that's the best way to allow it to open like that. You know, you got to question things in a more organized way, and a more intellectually pleasing way, because the information that we have now, you know, I mean, there's so much disinformation there, propaganda that's been provided to us over the last 50 years, you know, or more. But really, in the last 5-10 years, it's been terrible. Ever since we started walking around where our whole worlds were compressed to a small telephone, you know. So the other day I was out for a walk in the woods, and I'm walking along, and there's a bunch of people walking along, and it was a beautiful day. The sky was blue, the trees were just brilliant, and the colors were like, oh my God, you know. And the breeze was perfect, and it was just, oh my goodness me! I remember, I haven't seen a fall, and people walking on, and I must tell you, it's up near the University of Toronto. That's where I take my dog for a walk, right? And in Scarborough, and they got a beautiful park there, so I go there, and all the kids on the campus are walking around looking at their cell phones, ignoring the paradise they're living in. And I thought to myself, you know, I mean, yeah, they're looking for information, yeah, they're trying to keep their lives organized, but what they're doing is they're using a system that involves no flexibility. You know, everything is cut and dried. This is what it is. This is the information, and then the information, the swath of it that's available that comes through that little computer we're holding in our hands, which really is, you know, that we lose track of our own lives and how to be. You know, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you know, we'd get together, we'd play road hockey, or go play at the schoolyard, play soccer or basketball, or we'd bounce a ball off a wall, and we'd do it in road, or we'd play hockey, like on ice skates, or we would play baseball. That was a biggie, baseball. Wow. But now, nobody does anything of that nature. I don't see any of the kids in my neighborhood doing anything except, you know, going to jump on the bus or having their parents drive them to school as they're on their phones. So these are the things we do have to look at and understand that when the method of communication shifts in our society, this has dramatically. And who foresaw this, of course, was Marshall McLuhan, right? Remember Marshall McLuhan? You know, he said the medium is the message. Okay. And there was actually a misprint in his first book, and they called it the medium is the massage. So he left it with the word massage instead of message. He thought it was hilarious because that was part of the medium. The medium made a mistake, so now it went from message to massage. You know, but the fact is that he believed that whatever the device or the method of receiving information was actually the information.
Right.
You know, and that's what we believe too, because it's in our hands and where it's in front of us. It's TV. And, I mean, I grew up with radio and TV. The kids today grew up with computers, amazing science, technology that's just from another world. Oh yeah, I'm living in it now. That's what happens when you live long enough. You start to feel like you're kind of old. But the fact is, it's not a matter of old. It's a matter of seeing how much change really happens over periods of time, and how much it's beneficial or not. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. I think one of the biggest issues is that, you know, when we grew up, we would have an hour of news. If we watched news, we would have a paper that, well, okay, so I was from Moment Sound and the paper wasn't very big, but, you know, it was small.
I worked for the old Toronto Telegram, you know, before they closed it, it became the Sun. Yeah.
But now, like, when it changed to some of the news stations that have been on, like, that are on 24/7, and the computer technologies that we have, everything is instantaneous. But the problem, we're not using discernment at all. People are going onto Facebook and they think that's the news and that it's absolutely accurate. And then you add in the AI stuff that's can be a wonderful tool to assist a lot of people, but it's also being used to interrupt a lot of people and making fake news. And it's a really interesting time that we're
not just making fake news, but are destroying people's jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Destroying, like, middle management people. Okay, they're being. I mean, Amazon just announced they're letting go of what, 4,000 middle management people, 4,000, and they're being replaced with AI. They bring people in and do the jobs, and they interview them, and then the AI gets all the information, and then barfs it back, because most of the stuff that we do is repetitious. It's not new and creative, but you know, it's also intuitive. And AI is not intuitive. They try to make it intuitive, but it's not. I've tried to talk to AI secretaries on the phone, what have you. It's like talking to nobody. They never do anything. I mean, it's like talking to a politician. No matter what you say, they twist it around somehow and they get it wrong. But yeah, I think that's what we have in the world around us, and I'm not complaining about it, because as far as I'm concerned, this is technology and it's taking us forward. But it's how it's being used,
manipulated. Yes,
you know, and it's being used to manipulate us. Absolutely. So from that perspective, that's kind of where we're living in today, which is why so many of us. I mean, the first big divisiveness that came in was when the
9/11.
That no. First of all, that was a divisiveness because they wanted us to be racist, hate Arabs, right? And I mean, you know, I don't say some of my best friends are Arabs, but I know lots of people about that origin, lovely human beings, beautiful human beings. So the fact of the matter is that the real divisiveness, though, is coming in within ourselves, where we don't trust ourselves, trust the words that we hear, or that are happening around us, and then we get into the divisiveness, and the big divisiveness started for us with COVID.
Yeah.
First of all, there were people who said, "Well, it's nothing; it's just a cold," and other people said, "No, it's the plague." And before we knew anything else, magically, 3 drug companies had, you know, a new technology, mRNA, which is still dicey. All the research I've seen about it, I don't want that stuff coursing around in my veins. I've lost a couple of friends of mine because of the mRNA, and I know why, and we know what happened, and they agree with it. Medical people agree with it, especially people who come up with cancers that they had that weren't doing so well and were going away, and then they got the mRNA. The cancer just killed the people because that's what they used, to grow more cancer cells. That's what the R stands for, But anyway, we don't want to go in there. It's just to say, I did my research, and I decided I wasn't going to have a vaccination, and I didn't, of course, because it's being stuck in my frickin' veins, And for me, and the people who wanted to, I got my best friend and his partner. They had all the vaccinations. Well, good for you. God bless you. And he wanted to argue with me about it. And I said, no, I'm not going to argue with you about having and not having. It's my opinion. He said, well, why aren't you getting them? I said, because I don't have enough information. I can't take them on their word because the information that's there is insufficient. This new medicine, this new approach of it, has just been invented. And they usually want anywhere from 3 to 6 years to test the drug. We're nowhere near that. In fact, we're not even at the 6-year mark with this one. And the things they've discovered about it are horrendous. So we got to look at it and go, well, because they changed the formula and done this. That's because the original stuff was like poison. They were sticking in our veins. I mean, thank God we're hardy beings, we humans, but not everybody did that well with them. But that divisiveness took me into a place where I had people who didn't even want to talk to me anymore. And I went, really? I've known you like for 15 years. Is there something wrong with me? And I suddenly changed my aftershave or something? Disagreed with you or something? I mean, what are we talking about, But the truth of the matter is that they were adamant, and they were right because they were told that medicine told them this. And I kind of think back to the my days as a kid, and my doctor was a guy by the name of Ed Moran, who eventually became president of the Ontario Medical Association. And he was a great guy, Ed Moran. He told me when I lost a lot of weight when I was a kid, he said, you're way too skinny, Dave. You got to look like a man. You got to have some weight on you. You got to have some pudge on you. And I went, really? He goes, yeah. It's your doctor telling you. And he was right, because people who have little to no body fat have all kinds of problems with their immune systems because there's nothing to back it up, right? There's just like nothing, so he kind of, he knew what he was talking about. But Moran, he was the sort of guy, if somebody did something wrong, somebody did something wrong with my grandmother, who he adored, and this doctor gave her some kind of antidepressant or something like that, and something else. She started becoming suicidal. And we called him and we said, Ed, I know you're not her doctor anymore, but could you come and see him? And she did, and he did. And he went, whoop. That doctor was out of the neighborhood and removed from the medical association within 2 weeks. Bam. He didn't check any of the patient's history. He gave her something that was untried. He didn't have any, and he gave her something, it was bad news. He was gone. He was history because it was self-correcting. Because they looked at things and say, hey, we're not perfect. But if we make a mistake, we fix it real damn fast because we have a responsibility for people's health and their well-being. I like that. You don't find that anymore so much.
No, drug companies who give the drugs to, the big thing right now is diabetes, right? Everybody has diabetes. You go for one test. If it's a little high, oh, you got diabetes, so we're going to have to put you on drugs for the rest of your life. It's the drug companies that are somehow manipulating the doctors because they get money if they're giving them their drugs. So,
well, of course,
it's
I love the side effects.
Oh yeah.
You see these happy people in commercials, and they're all in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and they're looking happy, living these stupid lives. Oh, we're on vacation. Oh, we're doing selfies. Oh, look at this, look at that, and they've all got like chronically life devastating diseases, but they take this super duper drug that's been invented, and then at the end of it, they sit there and provide you with lots of side effects, including sudden death. At which point, I look at it and go, I'd rather have I'd rather have some problems with my skin if you don't mind. Just because I get like psoriasis doesn't mean to say I want to have this stuff in my blood that might kill me, and it has killed people. Otherwise, they don't mention it. you know? So I kind of look at it and go, I stay away from pharmaceuticals. I believe personally that all pharmaceuticals are addictive. If you stop taking any of them, and suddenly you start having withdrawal symptoms, your body is hooked on them. That's the way it is. I think there's few things that you can take. I was put on some heart medication a few years ago. I've gotten rid of 2 of them. I still got 2 left. And they're coming off. I know the next one coming off is going to be my water pill, because I got no trouble peeing at all, But that's another story in itself. But it's what they give us, and we have to take matters into our own hands and make choices about what we're going to do and how we're going to manage it and where we're going to go with it, And I think that's the most important thing: taking charge of our lives. Because when we take charge, we can change horses midstream if we want. We can swim instead of run. We can fly instead of hide. We can do what we want to do because we take charge. And whether we're right or wrong, it doesn't make any difference. But it has been our choice. But when we make the mistake of listening to what other people tell us how to think and how to believe and what to understand and what is and what isn't true, it takes our real point of being here on the planet away from us. We're supposed to make choices. The Willows tell me, that's my channel source, as you well know, that they were here to do 2 things. Okay, 1 is to make choices. 2 is to have an emotional experience. That's it. And of course, the first thing we decide to do is decide about how we're going to feel. And once we understand that, we understand that all emotions come from love, negative as well as positive. The negative ones come from love because they're based in love is fear of not being loved. And we just go back with anger and hatred and those kind of things, and they all go back to a source with love. Because I believe, my personal belief is, the universe is love. Everything we have is love. Light comes from love. Everything comes from love. Love is, people talk about the secrets, and what's the other one? The law of attraction. Love is a law of attraction, because when you look at it, basically, from no matter which point you look at it, if you look at it from a physical perspective, how in the world are we here? We're made out of atoms and molecules. What are atoms made of? Subatomic particles, whatever the hell they are. We never took a microscope out to see them because we can't see them. We can't even see atoms, for Christ's sakes. We just make them up on our head. It's a philosophy, some kind of understanding. But we know the atoms come together to form molecules. The molecules come together to form matter, and then matter somehow evolves to create us. And we, as pinnacle beings, and a lot of people say, oh, we're nothing compared to... No, we're pretty special on this planet to have the ability for self-awareness and thought and discernment and all those things. That's very special talents to have. We just don't use them as well as we could, because we're not taught to. Our society never supported that. They always supported following the orders and doing what other people ask you to do in order to get along with each other. But there's a little more to it than just that, in my opinion, but it's a good base. But in actual fact, a lot of the things that we are now, struggling with are things that come from the base of love. Like when going back to the idea, so if two subatomic particles come together to form an atom, atoms come together in varying degrees to form molecules. Molecules come together in varying degrees to form matter, and so on and so forth. So what's the highest thing we consider as a human being? What's the highest thing we can experience? Love. Love of each other, love of life, love of a partner, love of our children, love of God or universal consciousness or whatever you want to call it, or that which is. If that's the highest, then that is the original energy as well. That's what brings it all together. That's what creates a need for emotional experience and understanding and comprehension. It brings together the need to get together and to create a collective consciousness amongst ourselves. Love. And love is the only answer, no matter what the question, right? Think about it. And when we understand that love is what brings everything together, then we can let go of it all, because love is what made the molecules come together. Because the molecules couldn't come together to form us if we weren't experiencing and having that love inside of ourselves and feeling it in all that we do. And anybody who's ever gone out to watch a sunset on a perfect day, there's this feeling that goes beyond comprehension of amazement and complete and absolutely absorption into where we are and becoming one with that which is in that moment. And if that ain't love, what is, you know? Love's not just something we have for a person. It's something we begin with ourselves. You know, people say, I'm looking for love. No. We're supposed to create love. We're not supposed to find it. It's not lying around under rocks and in the woods or anything like that. Oh, I lost my love button. Where the hell is that? You know, it's not that we're supposed to create that. You know, people say, I'm always looking for happiness. We're supposed to create happiness. I'm looking for joy. We're supposed to create joy. We are creators. And when we understand that and we put that into action, and we take some of the old hacks from when we were kids, you know, the old Napoleon Hill stuff, which comes originally from Andrew Carnegie, you know, whatever the mind conceives and believes, it achieves. You know? It's true, isn't it? I remember when you first started doing what you're doing, you know, and you could have done lots of other stuff. You're an extremely talented human being, a wonderful writer, and you know, you just do so many things so well. And spiritually, there's so many other things you do. I won't even get into it right now. But the fact is, you decided to keep this on and keep it together. And as a result, you created a sense of community that a certain number of people listen to, and it helps them in the quality of their living process. That's one of the most noble things any of us could do. But here you are doing it and sharing it with others, and giving people like of the likes of me to share it with others as well. It's a phenomenal thing. So thank you for that. But the truth of the matter is that that's what we're all for. And the more of us that can begin to think like that and stop worrying about what somebody else is thinking or doing, because quite frankly, who cares? Who really cares? I mean, he's going to affect this and affect that. Only if you let him. Only if you let these things affect you emotionally or energetically. And if you do, well, then you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong things in the wrong way. But I like to always think I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right things in the right way, you know? I like those little sayings I can say to myself, you know, that's a good one. Because, you know, people say, well, that's kind of like little Harry Sunshine, isn't it? And I go, no. You know, if I'm always in the right place at the right time, I look at it this way. I can only be in one place at one time, consciously, right? On the physical world. So if I'm always in the right place at the right time, wherever I am is the right place, because I'm there, right? And doing the right thing in the right way, I'm there, and it's a really uncomfortable situation, and I'm feeling awkward, going, but what's the right thing to do, and the right way to do it, in other words, to work through that. That's what that really means. I'm always in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing in the right way. In other words, looking to be proactive, looking to be creative, and looking to really and truly put what we came here with into the world around us to lift consciousness on more of a conscious level, on a physical level. Because that's why we come here and have physical existence, in my opinion, to express what we have in the spirit or different vibrational level of consciousness outside of the physical. I know a lot of people like to argue about all the time, but hell, I've worked with that for most of my adult life, you know. So, and a large part of my childhood too, because nobody told me any different, you know. So that's my little diatribe. I mean, that's the take I have, and that's what I want to share with the world these days. And I've been when I talk with clients and I do readings and I do little classes and things like that. I still do classes here and there, you know. And they're all to do with allowing people to become energized and to fall back on their own capacity and their own abilities and their own strengths, take it forward and live a more proactive life and a more positive way to be, you know. And I think that's really what knocks it home for me, you know. And I have so few people coming to me these days saying, "What should I be when I grow up?" You know, because they realize they're already grown up and you're already there, you know. The story about two monks on either side of a pond, right? And one of them sees the monk on the other side, and there's woods all around on the other side of the pond. And the other monk says, how do I get to the other side? The other monk shouts back to him, "You're already there." Because it's all about perspective, right? So I like to think about that. And if we start taking perspective, we're always in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing in the right way. We can't be doing anything else but that. How could we? Except for the fact the way we want to interpret it and determine how we're gonna practice it in our lives. And the thing I sure have learned is that I have a choice as to how I'm going to feel every single day. And I can either feel like, old poop warmed up like Donald Trump and his little plane flying over the people protesting for love and peace, or I can just, feel the true love of what life is and where we go with it and how we exist within it. Because that's really what's most important for all of us. And the more we do that, the more we treat other people the way we want to be treated ourselves. And the more we do that, the happier it makes them. And the happier it makes the people around them as well. When one person says or does something nice to you, it changes your whole day. Just like that. It can be something small or something big. It doesn't make any difference. But that's what we use to help keep ourselves uplifted as well. Because when you see other people out there with a positive mental attitude, and treating people with love and respect the same way you do, it reinforces what you do and enables you to continue without feeling like you're being exhausted or overwhelmed by your circumstances. That's what I think, anyway.
I like it.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah. All right.
Well, it's important that we think about things from this perspective. They don't have to think what I think. Nobody does. This is what I think, and I don't make any bones about it. Oh, it's true. Well, it is for me. But hey, what's true for you? That's the question. Hey. But if what I say is going to provide people with some degree of food for thought and help bolster their respect for themselves and who they are. I mean, we're all divine beings. We're all part of the universal consciousness. People say to me, well, what do you think God's all about? And I say, well, do you think God's separate from us? Well, God's in heaven, really. And where are we? In hell and purgatory? Where are we here right now, Limbo? No, they took limbo out, didn't they? That's right. I don't understand. Limbo no longer is in the Catholic hierarchy of places to go after you die, But I guess it sounded too much like a dance or something. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that once we begin to appreciate our own capacity for understanding the world around us, once we begin to appreciate the consciousness that we're all part of, because we can think. I see. Here's my take on it. Universal consciousness is everything. We all think, therefore we all have consciousness. It's not the same consciousness. It's individuated consciousness. It comes from the uniqueness of individuated existence, which is still singular. It's still singular. It's just that there's trillions of us, or billions of us, and trillions in the universe, I guess, probably more than trillions. Billions or trillions. But the fact is that that's not the way. That's not the universal's mind. The universe is, in my understanding, a singular consciousness, and it's profound and all inclusive. And if we're part of that, we think, well, how could I be that? The moment, whatever you think, whatever you say, is the universe thinking, because you are the universe. Your consciousness is not only part of the universe; it is the universal's manifestation of singular consciousness into a being, you. Because the only being you have, or the only consciousness we all hold, is a singular consciousness, isn't it? And the universe is a singular consciousness. As a result, we now get to have a singular consciousness of existence, which gives us an idea what the universe is about. And we go, but I'm going to die one day. Well, are you now? Well, that's what you're told. And dying just simply means that you leave your physical body. Where do you go then? Well, that's another story, isn't it? No, it's a topic for another discussion. But the truth of the matter is that we are part of universal consciousness. Our unique, singular way of seeing things is the universal consciousness way of seeing things. Well, what is above is reflected below, and vice versa. And consequently, those of us who want to argue about varying degrees of consciousness, varying degrees of intelligence, and hierarchies of being and all that kind of thing. I just think to myself, okay, but that's here, down here in the world of mundane life, where everything's divided up, where we do have a beginning, a middle, and an end, where we do have to fulfill certain beliefs and behaviors that our society has developed over the aeons, and they're not necessarily right. It's just the result of massive experience. And enough of it creeps through for folks like me and you and the folks listening to your show are able to appreciate it and absorb it and learn from it and understand that everything that we study and everything we read and everything we work with is part of that universal consciousness, as we are. And that singular understanding of being is unique in ourselves. And when we're no longer here physically, well, Jane Goodall said it the best. I don't know if you saw her last interviews before she passed, right? She's like 93 when she passed. And what a lovely, I mean, nobody ever hated her. Nobody ever wrote like hate letters to Jane Goodall. You bastard, you're out there talking to apes and hold on, and saving the world. They asked her, they said, so now that you're in your 90s, what's your next great adventure? And she looked at the camera and she had this look of complete joy come in her face. She says, oh, dying. And I went, whoa, I like that, And she said, either it's nothing and you go to sleep forever, or you're entering into a higher consciousness or a different state of being. She says, I'm all to find out about that. She said, I'm in no hurry, but, here I am. And I kind of agree with her in that way because, hey, we are here. We're part of a larger consciousness. And her perspective of life is very similar to mine and possibly yours as well. I think it is too. So I think it's those things when we understand them that we can lose the fear of death. We stop worrying about dying and we focus on living, which is what we came here to do. And at the end of the story, I mean, with my past life regression workshops, and I've done over the years, and I've done so many of them, I always take people at the end of a past life to the end of their life and then take them through the death experience. Every single person went, oh, that was it, eh? Like I'm still here? Yeah, here you are. And how did you feel on the other side? And what did you learn? And suddenly they had all kinds of information that came through from universal consciousness that they are. But that's my feeling about our consciousness, is that we are part of the big picture. And in fact, we are the big picture miniaturized. Yeah. Crammed down into our tiny little beings. You look at the size of the universe and you look at the size of us, right? I mean, holy moly, like, we're not even grains of sand. We're like subatomic particles in the universe. It's like, holy mackerel. But yeah.
Each have a beautiful divine spark. All right. Well, this has been a lovely show. I think we'll have to have you come back in the new year to discuss what's going to happen maybe with the new year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more shows with you, David. We kind of lost touch for a while, and I think we should.
It was those damn stairs climbing up the back and my bad legs. What can I say? I don't have bad legs anymore. You don't have those damn stairs leading up to your studio anymore. So there you go. Yeah.
Right.
Thank God for Zoom. Yeah. Laurie, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for letting me shoot off my mouth. It was awful nice of you. But yeah, I appreciate it.
Listening to News of the Heart, we've been getting the heart of what matters with David Watson, and I don't know, Love Consciousness. We'll figure out a brilliant title. All right, thank you, David.
Thanks, Laurie.